Hey everyone, I'm Abby, and I'm going to talk to you today about designing your menus. We're going to start by looking at some printed menus, followed by some menus found on different restaurant websites. And finally, I'm going to work in InDesign a little bit and talk about typographic hierarchy. Now, I know this year is a little different, and since we're doing at-home dining experiences, not everyone will have a printed menu. I still think it's really important to look at printed menus to investigate how they're designed, how the typographic hierarchy works. And some of you might still do a printed menu. You might have menus that get dropped off at your door. You might have tasting menus that come with the food. So there are opportunities to still do printed menus. As for InDesign, not everyone will be laying out their menu in InDesign. If you're designing a screen-based menu, it's quite possible you're doing this directly in a prototyping software like Adobe XD. And if that's the case, I still think it's important to follow along the InDesign demo because you will learn a little bit about hierarchy and you'll learn a little more about InDesign, which will help you for other things. All right, the first menu we're looking at today is called the Brass Onion. This is the collection of the entire identity. I think it's really nice to see it put together this way. You get to see the logo, you get to see how they grew this brand and created all these little illustrations. You see the variety of color and paper stock they used. Jumping a little deeper into the menu, we can see how the menu is used on this wood board that is engraved with the name of the logo type for the Brass Onion. And then the menu can be swapped out. They do this so that if the menu changes, it's a pretty affordable way of quickly changing the menu. They can print these out, take these off, put the new menu on. What I want to really point out today, and you're going to see this on a lot of menus, is the use of a table to organize your information. It's a nice way to separate the items, and it gives it a certain structure and just aesthetics that you might be going for. But what's really important to pay attention to is the extra details they added in. So this isn't just a default table built. They have a double row at the top. They chose to leave the cells on the outside open. Again, that adds to the aesthetics. I'd also like to point out that they have different sheets for different types of menus. They have their signature cocktails, their wine, and then their beer and spirits. It's a really nice system, easy to use, easy to navigate. Remember, when you're setting type, your job is to make the type easy for the user to get the information they need. So creating a really strong system is really helpful. Just a little close up from the other angle. Next up, we have a just one page menu. And I wanted to share this one because I thought that it's possible some of us might just do like a one sheet tasting menu that comes with your food. And I thought this was a really nice option. You might pick up some things, like for instance, this looks like it might be printed on a, standard size paper so that it's more affordable. Now, while you don't have to think about those things necessarily, it might be nice to consider how the design of your menu will actually get executed if it were to get executed. This is a close-up, and if you look in the bottom right, you can start to see the typographic hierarchy. So you can see that the Cantina Vegetarian Nachos is set in a sans serif. It's a little bit extended, and it's bold. Then you can see the half and the whole next to the prices is a condensed sans serif, and the tracking is a little bit tighter. And then you can see the cost, the 622 and the 889, as well as the description is all in this typewriter typeface. So it's important to look at the pairing of the types in these menus. Next up, we have this Curio, and I really like this one because of how it folds. I think it's a really nice system. This is called a gatefold, and it opens up like a gate to the full menu. Here we have a special, the happy hour. It's called the witching hour, and it grows on the other illustrations within this menu. This illustrated menu is really interesting and different and exciting because it pairs each of these drinks with an illustration. We have the gray tiger here. And you take a look, this is treated as kind of a book. And so each page in this book tells the story about the drinks. Another important thing to think about when you're designing your menu is your copywriting. So instead of just calling this the margarita, since has this witch's theme, it's called the Midnight Margarita. It gives it more personality. And then if you look at the ingredients, again, they're building on their copywriting. So I so cute, tongue of grog, blood orange bitters, tequila fog. So they have these little poems for each of the drinks. It's a really fun idea. It's entertaining, and I could see someone thinking about what type of material comes with their food for this in-home dining experience that is entertaining. So not only are you eating, but you're getting to read about these fun drinks. I have a few more in here. We have just a saddle stitch book, which is just a stapled book. I included this one not because I think anyone will do this. We're not really thinking too much about in-restaurant experiences, but I do like that it's different. And that was why I wanted to show it. It has a little personality because this is a huge menu on a wall. And again, the navigational system is using some type of table. And it has this vertical type that separates the different items. I think I have a close up here. Yep. And also you can see the hierarchy. So we see the name of the item and the price is set in the same typeface, but there's a color shift. And we have this little bar between the name and the item to again separate the two, make it very easy to quickly identify where the price is. And then we have one line of copy underneath. What I think is interesting here, if you look at the copy underneath all the items, it always stays one line. And that's important as well. When you're creating your content, you want to think about consistency of words. So you don't want one title for an item that, let's say, is 20 words long and the next one's only 2. It's always going to look a little strange when you're typesetting that. And this is just a picture of how this works in the restaurant. I thought this menu was nice and clean, but had this really beautiful inspiration. So I wanted to show that. I really like the combination of these textures and the paper texture. Here we have a menu that comes inside of a leather-bound book. It's kind of funny. I'm seeing now, maybe I just really like these types of grids myself a lot because I'm using them a lot in my samples. But it is, like I said, kind of a common way of separating information. Here we have a close-up and we can see the system a little bit better. We have these different numbers that you can order, not drink number 1 or drink number 3. Again, these are all decisions you get to make. How do you want to name things? What do you want to call them? How does that work with the concept? You can see the all caps headline. The cost is a different typeface. It's a little bit larger and thinner. And then you can see the item is below. The description, I'm sorry. We have this system here. This is another little book. I like the use of these short pages. This has a really fun kind of sketchbook feel to it. So it could be really fun to have a restaurant that has some type of book that comes with your food. This makes me think about like sketchbooks. It's really kind of a fun interactive idea. The Fitzroy has a nice solid system. See, depending on the menu, they have a place where they put what meal it's for. They use these rules and then they bring them in and make more of a pattern out of them for the coasters. And you can see a really clean typographic system here. And then we have the Midwestern, I think is what it's called. They have these hanging menus. It's kind of fun. You can grab one for yourself. And here is the brunch menu. So again, strong system. You can really quickly pick out the main dishes. You can quickly decide the cost and what is the description. They use this fun kind of not crossing out style. So appetizers crossed out, toast, sandwiches. Think about how they're using color for their typography. Again, there's red for appetizers, red for toast, red for sandwich, red for platters. So I can very quickly scan this and find the information that I want. We have their cocktail menu following the same system. I think it's kind of fun to look at the different menus for different meals from one restaurant and evaluate how they expanded their system. For instance, this menu had a lot of content. Now they have meat screened back. But on the cocktail menu, they were able to do it bold on the side, which kind of also follows how they do the front of the menu. So I think that's kind of interesting to think about how you can have a system, but how the system can be flexible to fulfill the design needs of your piece. This is another fun, funky design. It's on this kind of that plywood board and uses these clasps that are, I recognize them from medical filing. Again, they did this nice paper combination. So like the first menu we saw where you could pick out the different things, it's kind of funky. It says food, and then I bet you pick this up, it probably says drink. It's kind of fun. I like the type going vertical. That's really funky. This whole gridded pattern again. With this fun duotone wine image. All right. So those are the printed menus I wanted to share today. And what I want to do next is jump to some screen-based menus. I did not have much luck finding many touch screens, but the more I thought about it, the really only touch screen I could imagine a student doing this semester would be on their phone or maybe an iPad, something you're ordering from home. So I think it might be more valuable if we together today take a look at some websites and some menu designs on websites. All right. So this first website here, I'm just going to scroll down so you can take a look at how it works. And I'm not going to comment too much on the design of the overall website, or I'm going to try to stop myself. But what I do want to get to, I want you to see the menu, the website enough so that when we get to the menu, you can see how it was inspired by this. So I'm going to go to menu here. They have beautiful photography. And then they have this really nice, simple system here where you can pick the meal and the course, and the menu just loads in for you. Now, personally, if I was going to critique this, I find that it's hard to retype when it's all in caps, especially when there's multiple lines. So while I don't know if I'd recommend that, I do like the simplicity of this, and I do really like how it all loads in and how you can easily find by using this section on the left what meal you're looking for. All right. So I really love this website. When you first get to it, you can see some of the menu and read a little bit about their ingredients. If I go to the full menu, you see I can quick jump to the section I want. I also can easily see where the prices are, where the item is, and when I roll over this box, I could even order it online. I really like this website and how they treat the images of their food. The idea to put everything inside of circles is really nice. It gives the designer a way to make all the images feel similar even though they're different. So if you see this wrap here being in a circle, it works better with how the salads are working. And they even continue that at the bottom with the beverages as well. So I thought that was really nice. I also like how menus is called out. You can see even when I go back to the main page, it has this outline on it, kind of focusing and helping the user find the menu because most likely that is what they're going to be looking for. So this is one long scrolling page, and you can tell that when I start scrolling, you can see the little dot and the navigation at the top changing. And go back to the menu. This is a simple menu, but it works really well. I can select a section and that section comes up. The little line next to the word and the color shift tells me what section I'm on. The style of this is really nice, and this is really fun. As you go through and roll over the items, the photos of those items also appear. The pricing all align. They're all in this mustardy color, and this works the same for all the food. I also like how the photographs are all similar, where the food is in the front of the image. It's on the same type of tray and the same angles. That's a nice online menu. Next, we have this distillery, and I will just scroll so you can kind of get an idea of how the site works first. Kind of a fun little call with these large numbers, tell some facts about the company. Then I can go to the beer. I get a little intro, and I get these little teasers that kind of show what they're focusing on. I really like those a lot. I like this little box down here that quickly gives me the information I might be looking for. And then if I scroll a little further, I also get the list of beers. So for this, they use an all caps condensed sans serif, followed by a sans serif that is a lot obviously lighter weight, a little more tracked out, and then this mixed case description. I like the little ruler edge detail that separates all the items. I think that's a nice detail on there. All right, we're gonna move forward to Hey Noodles. This one's just really fun. Um, the name and the style. I mean, I see this website and I think, yep, this is Hey Noodles. And then the menu just continues that fun style. This is really funky. Let's see. Let's scroll down a little and you can see what starts to happen. They give us these icons. So icons are another nice element to use on a menu to help someone know what each item has. So you know if someone's vegetarian, you know if it's a staff favorite. And then these here you can roll over and they open up. And the menu itself is pretty basic, but those icons add to that so I know pretty quickly what it is I'm looking at. You know, what is special, what is hot, what is vegetarian. I think that's just a really nice system. There's just something that's really exciting about how loud this website is and just how different it is. So let's just check out another page here just to see how the style. I want to know where I am. All right. So I'll go to one more. Jump back to the main page for This is Amber. I picked this site. What I really liked was how it kind of mimics some of those printed menus we looked at by having these overlapping pages. So here we have breakfast, community. We can go back. So I'm going to go back to my menu. I have my breakfast menu. And this menu, you can pick the menu up here and you can also just scroll. It's simple, it's nice, it's easy to use, it has a strong system. I know what my headers are, I know what my items are. I'm not sure why there's commas and not periods, but everything else works really smoothly and consistently. Gusto is kind of a fun one. What's your gusto? I love this little menu up here, smiley face. Nice little animation when you click it. And this one's really fun because it kind of teaches you about the food as you go. So you can always use these arrows to see the next plate, and you can see that's jumping at the bottom too. So a lot of indicators. I can also navigate by pushing on these down here. So I can kind of pick what style I want. So let's do some ginger lime peanut. And then I hear more about it. I can download nutritional facts. I can switch if I decided I wanted to see what was in the other bowls. Then I get to choose my protein. So I can go through here and select a different protein if I want. And then my style, this was really fun. You can get rice. You can also get lettuce and rice or a pita, flatbread. There's a kids menu. So I thought that was a really fun, different way of approaching a menu. And finally, Spicy No Spicy is just a really beautiful, beautiful site. Look at these great illustrations. How much fun are they? I know I said I wasn't going to focus on the sites too much, but this one's kind of hard to not want to scroll through. So again, what's interesting up here is they have menu, and you can also click on this icon. So it's kind of telling us this is the menu in case you didn't know. But under here is where the food menu is. So here's the food menu. And you can see the menu right here. Again, a really solid, clean system. My section headers are a different color, a little bit larger, a little bolder. They have this dotted rule underneath. It also says price, so I know these are my prices here. The item name, the description. What I thought was really fun about the copywriting on this one is it has, what it does for you. So delicately relaxes and soothes. And then also what the main spice is or main taste. And I think that also is a nice added touch for this restaurant that really lets the user know what they're going to be getting. At the same time with the fast, you go to a restaurant, you're hungry, you want something now. I'm going to order from the fast menu. And I like that too. It's just fun. It makes it a little more special. So that's the last website I'm going to show. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about your type in InDesign. All right. So now we're in InDesign, and I'm going to talk a little bit about setting up your menu in InDesign, but also some of my favorite best practice tips for InDesign. I know not everyone is going to be using InDesign because some of us might be designing digital prototypes for our menu. But the foundations of building a typographic hierarchy are the similar, and you will be using InDesign for other things. So it's still really important that you grasp how to use it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and go up here to my document setup. I already set up this document, but I wanted to show you all a few things in here. First of all, I use points and picas, and it's a good habit for everyone to use it. And one of the main reasons we use picas and points is so that we start to understand the size of type. Because in reality, if I said how big is 12-point type, you could say 12 points, but what is that in a measurement that we are familiar with, that we can visualize? And so we use picas and points because if we know that 12 points make up one pica, and there's 6 picas in 1 inch, then we know that 72-point type is 1 inch tall. 36-point type is half an inch tall. So now when you're setting type, you can think a little bit, okay, so if this is like, 150 points, it's, somewhere around 2 inches. It gives you a better system to be able to understand the height, the size of type. So what you see here, 3P0 means 3 picas, 0 points. That's the default margin. I usually just leave that the same and play with my margins when I get into the document. But what I do always add, and I've already did, I'm just going to take it out for a second, is my bleed. So bleed is what lives outside of the document. And this way, when you print something, you print it with bleed and crops. And when you cut something out, you won't accidentally leave like a white little strip. And we do this professionally too. So all your professional documents always, always, always start with bleed. It's important to do it at the beginning because even when you're developing art, like let's say I wanted to put a texture back here, my texture document wouldn't just be a letter size page, be a letter size plus that 1/4 of an inch so that when I bring it into InDesign with my bleed, I have that 1/8 of an inch bleed on all sides. So it's really important you wrap your head around bleed when you're starting a project because you can't make information up. So if you place a photo on here without bleed, but you need the bleed, you're going to have to move that photo. So it's kind of a domino effect. So to avoid that, always think about your bleed. I do an 1/8 of an inch bleed, which is 9 points, but I want to show you that you can actually just type in 1.25 inches, hit tab, and it converts it to 9 points. So if you're better with inches, you can still set your document up as picas and just type in inches and it'll convert it for you. Okay. Another thing I already did is I set up my layers the way I like them. So layers are a little different in InDesign. Layers are the same on multiple pages. So when I go to another page, I'll still have the same layers, but the difference is the objects on those layers only live on the page that they're on. And this is just kind of a system I've developed myself over the years that I find to be pretty helpful. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my margins and columns. This is a big mistake I see students making all the time. They use guides to make their columns and margins instead of margins and columns. Now, usually I would do this on my master page. I can't bring the pages up while I'm in here, but let me just get out of here so you can see I'm not on my master page. So here I'm on page 1. My master pages are up here. If I was building this document to really use it for my menu, I would at some point do this on the master page and use the master pages. But for us today, I'm just going to do it under layout, margins and columns. Go in here. I'm going to add 2 columns and I'm going to make my gutter 1p6. I also like, and I think it's more interesting when margins are a little bit unique and special and not even all around. So I'm going to make a really tall top margin and say okay. Then I'm going to make a text box. Now my text box can also be set up so that it has those 2 columns in it with the gutter in between. The gutter is the space between your columns. You do that under Object, and so let me just get out of here. I have to select this with the selection arrow. And let me actually make this into a text box, putting the cursor in. And then I can go in and I can text frame options. So in here, I can also say, okay, your 2 columns, your gutter of 1 pica 6 points. And you can see now, if I move it, you can see it fits perfectly. Okay, I'll put that there. Now let's see if my type, yay. So there is my type. I brought this in from somewhere else. I'm gonna just do a breakfast menu. Maybe I'll do breakfast, and then we're going to just say that this is lunch, even though it's the same, just for the sake of us designing this together today. Okay, I want to turn on my hidden characters. Hidden characters show if I have a return, if I have a soft return, they show my spaces. And it's really good to work with all of these turned on in InDesign. So the key command for hidden characters is Command Option I. So I do that, I turn those on. I'm going to zoom in. I'm also going to bring up my style sheets. So this under style, paragraph style, looks like it was up somewhere. Let's get that back. It's just on my other screen. Bring it back over here for everyone. Okay, so I have paragraph styles and character styles. This will take you a little while to really grasp, but paragraph styles are what you will use the most, and they stylize everything. Everything in a document you have in InDesign should be inside of a paragraph style. They dictate the typeface, the size, the style, and most important, the spacing. So what happens before or after one of these returns? A character style is only that individual character. So let's say you want to change one attribute, like you want to make one word bold within a paragraph. You would have a paragraph style that is on the entire paragraph, and then you would have a character style just on that word you want to be bold. And we will go through that together today. First thing is I'm going to play around. I'm going to hit Command T. It's going to bring up my type character box. And I'm going to start playing around with the typefaces here. All right. So let's say I want breakfast to be in this font. I'm holding down Option, Command, and caret, and that will let me scale this up. Now, for some reason, it's scaling up it's scaling up the whole box. I don't want that. I'm sorry. Let's get out of here. It is Command Shift caret, and that will just scale up the word breakfast. So that's what I'm going to do for breakfast, I think. And then for eggs, I'm going to go in and find, let's see. I'll find something a little bit different. All these scripts here. Pop out of here for a second. Here it is. I like that E a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna do eggs in this funky typeface. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I also think I might do eggs in all caps, and I want to talk about the best way of doing that. There's two places where you can change the case in InDesign, and you might be confused on why there's two. One is you go up to type and you go to change case and all uppercase. But that's not the way you should do it. The way you should do it is you should use the character style. And the reason is we're going to set style sheets up. We set style sheets up, we're going to want the word pancakes to also be in this all caps style. And if it's not set as a character style, if I just change the actual case, it's not going to know it wants me to change it. It's going to leave it as mixed case. So this is the correct way of doing it. I'm going to select my description here. Let's try to find one more typeface that we like that matches these other two. This is going to be a funky menu. I'm going to use this Macho Modular. All right. And I'm going to do, it's just bold, that's fine. So the next thing I want to do is I want my prices to be in the right-hand column here. So I'm going to add a tab, but that's just the default tab. I want to actually decide where my tab goes. So you hit Command-Shift-T, and that brings up this tab window. These are your tabs up at the top here. So I can grab my right tab, and I can just place it here, and that moves my 10. Now let's say I want to add one of those dots or some character so it helps the viewer easily follow to the price. I can go in this little leader box here, and I can put a period and a space, and that will fill it in with that, which I kind of like. Now I want to set up my style sheets. I'm going to go in, select all of breakfast. Now it's very important. So when you're setting the paragraph style, it wants to know what the space is after a return. And I'm going to actually go in all of these spaces in between these returns we should not have, because we want to always control our space after an item with space after. When you're setting paragraphs of type, this is really important, but it's just a good habit to get into. Never hit return and then mess with the leading of that line. You want to use your space afters and space befores. So I'm going to select my breakfast and make sure I get that return. I'm going to say new paragraph style, and this is going to be my meal, let's say. Okay, and next up, I'm going to select my eggs, and this is going to be my item. Now notice it still doesn't think it's this selection, so I actually have to go in and click on item so it knows it's item. I have to do the same thing for breakfast. Oh, wrong one, meal. And then I have one more I'm going to do, which is my item description, we'll call it. And names don't matter as long as it's a system that you can follow. It's more important when you're working with other people that you have a naming convention that other people understand. Now, there's a few things with this, though. I kind of want that 10 to be a different color. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to my swatches and just make it this blue. I want it really to stand out because I'm always looking to see what something is going to cost. So let's see here. I have the 10, okay? But now I have a little plus sign, so it's telling me, okay, this is not following a whole style when I select this whole line. See the little plus? It's because of that 10. So that is where you use a character style. So I just select the 10, I go into my characters, say new character style, and I'm going to call this price. Price blue. I like to make my character styles have a descriptor that I know what they're doing. Now when I go back and select this whole line, it's fine. It knows it's the item descriptions. It doesn't have a little plus because it knows that that's different and it's a style. So here comes the fun part. I can just select pancakes and item descriptions. And you can even, should we try something? Let's see. Item. Just the next style. So there's this thing called next style. I'm just curious if it works. Let's see. It didn't do anything, so I'm not going to worry too much. Okay, so I also want to show you how to put type in the next column. So before I do the lunch, I'm just going to pretend like we have a few more items here. Okay, so let's get a description, item descriptions, item descriptions. Make sure I have a return. Oh, I also want to do my tab here. Okay, not that T, I want it there. Why is that French toast so cheap? Yeah, it's supposed to be 12. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be 12. But I also have to go in now and make these all blue. Okay. Now, these are a little too tight to me. I would like some space. I'm going to do a little space after, and this is under the paragraph box. If this is not up, let's get you the key command. It is Command Option T. And on the left, the box that's white, that is my space before. And on the right, that's the space after. That's what I'm looking for. And I just want to add some space. Once I add that, I'm going to have to go back to my style and see it has a plus because it's saying, hey, this is not your style. But I'm just going to redefine it. That's what I want. And I like the relationship of eggs to the description, but I would like some space between the items. So I'm going to go to my return here. And the same thing, I'm just going to say redefine style, and it'll add it for everything. Now I want this to be split up into 2 columns. To jump to the next column in a text box, you just hit enter. Now my problem is I think it looks a little funky. I think breakfast should center. So I can center it, but it's only going to center in that column. I actually want to center it over both columns. So what you can do under the paragraph box is you can go to span columns, and you can say, yes, span the columns. And look at that, it spanned it for me. That's great, I love it. All right. And then one little final thing I think could be fun. I'm going to do a little rule. I did Command Option J, and that brings up my caricature rules. Do a little rule under breakfast. I don't want it that thick. Make it 0.5. Oops, sorry. I'm going to offset it so it's just not touching that type. And then I'm going to add some indents. I don't need it all the way. Let's do it 10 points on the right, 10 on the left. And I think actually it also needs a little more space now. So let's give it another, maybe, probably just one more pica. All right, I got to redefine that again. Okay. And now the fun thing, let's just pretend like we have another section on here. Now we can do lunch here. And you can see it's going to follow the same system. And the last thing I'm going to show you is just how to use that bleed if you're going to use it. So if I want to do this on a background, let me just check and make sure my type is on the right level. So my type, I'm going to just pick up this little square and drop it on text. But then my background, I want this menu to maybe be yellow. So let's put this here. Since it's on a layer underneath text, it's automatically under the text. I'm just going to go ahead and make it yellow. Now I want to get to see this a little better, and I'm seeing a few different rules, a few other key commands to know. Command Control H hides all of those extra frame edges. I always do that right away. Then you have that Command Option I, which hides those invisible characters, and Command colon gets rid of your guides. So knowing the key commands is really helpful because you can quickly turn on and off things. And one of the nice things is sometimes you're going to want to see your invisibles. And the problem with using the W, the preview mode, is it gets rid of everything. And so you could like look at this without the guides and still have your invisibles if you know all the key commands and can quickly control them. So that's what we're going to cover today. I hope that this lecture was useful and you can come back and revisit it next time you're setting some type for your menu or something else. Thanks, everyone.